as we go to the catch, now is the most important thing I want to show you. Now, please monitor very precisely and very closely the shoulders. So, specifically this area here, okay? You will see a tiny bit of extension as the blades find connection. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hello and a very warm welcome. My name is Aram. Welcome to the Competitive Rowing channel. Now, today's video is about, in my humble opinion, one of the Australian rowing legends, more specifically sculling legend. I'm talking about Daniel Noonan. So the interesting thing about him is that he resembles the style that is, for me, one of the most effective ways to row, disregarding the fact if it's light or heavyweight. It's just an effective style of rowing. And he does, or did, a lot of things extremely well that are hard to find even today. Let's jump right into the video. Check it out. Before I start, let me play the footage. So you can see at least 20 seconds of the footage. I will link the original footage. Nick Garrett posted that on his channel. Please hop over, watch the full footage on his channel. Music is a bit dramatic. I allow myself to play a bit different music here, but overall the rowing is just superb. That is exceptional. Let's get to the details why I think this is the case. Now, every stroke for me starts with the hands away. You can have multiple points on a stroke cycle where you would like to start. For me, the finish, more specifically, the phase when your blades have exited the water and you start with the tension that he's got right here in the lower abs. This is what you need. The reason why I think this is that every stroke cycle needs a beginning. And it's not good to choose a beginning that is a very delicate phase. See, usually at that stage, there's nothing you can do anymore to set the boat. That's important. This is why I picked that phase. Why? That stage, you've just come to the finish, you've just tapped down, your blades have just feathered. Now the next step is, at that stage, if you have tapped down symmetrically and you have feathered correctly and you have found the right handle depth in the boat, there's nothing else you can do. This is not the time to wibbly wobbly around and say, I'm going to compensate. Either you've done your homework before, you have not. No matter what happened, as this is a very bad point of time to compensate anything, it's a very good point to restart every stroke cycle. What you can do at that stage is what Daniel Noonan is doing extremely well here. He's holding tension. That's the phase where you need to be able to control your body. Let me draw your attention to specifically this point here. It's precisely underneath the chest, right here. It's the upper section of the torso, but not the chest. Because if you try to have your chest under tension, it's very likely going to bring the chest out, and that's counterproductive. If you bring the chest out, what's going to happen is that you will bring the shoulders back, and if you bring the shoulders back, this affects how you handle your oar handles, and that's nothing I want to do. Ideally, I think the shoulders should be in a slight forward position at the finish. We don't need to bring our shoulders back at all, in my humble opinion. So what I focus on is tension here in the low trunk to mid trunk, but interestingly, I found it to be more effective to focus on the ventral chain, which is the front of your torso, rather than the back. I think that it's much easier to contract the inner stabilizers with the ventral chain, and it's much harder to contract the inner stabilizers with the dorsal chain on the back. And what we need at that stage are the internal stabilizers. In a couple of videos, I talked about how the trunk is deprived of bones. We don't have a fully integrated bone structure to keep the trunk in a stable position. We just don't. So we rely on muscles, and it's easier to trigger the muscles from the ventral chain. Next up, he's bringing his hands forward, but what he's not doing, and it's more important what he's not doing than what he's doing. He's not leading his hands out rapidly and fully extending his arms. Let's follow this a bit more. At that stage, you see he's keeping, it's so good. I'm so happy I found this video. So look at the elbows right here. At that stage, he's keeping the elbow slightly loose. It's important to keep the elbow slightly loose. Why? Just try this out with me. Go to the finish position, to the imaginary finish position, and now overextend your arms. Rapito. What happens next is that your delts will tighten up a lot. Deltoids here on the top of your shoulder. I mean, they work anyway, but we don't need to overdo it. And if you now go from super stiff arms to slightly loose, and you do this with relax your wrist a bit, not your fingers, but your wrist, you see a natural elbow rotation inward. For me, this is one of the crucial marks when I row. And at that stage, when your wrist is loose and your elbow is slightly loose, it's very likely your shoulder is going to be loose. Now, why does the shoulder need to be loose? See, if you have stiff shoulders, try to move your lat. It doesn't really work, huh? And if you have stiff shoulders, your shoulders are likely to go up. Now loosen up. Your shoulders will drop. Low shoulders means the attachment point of your latissimus dorsi can more easily engage. And if that one can more easily engage, you can do this. So you can start to move the shoulder blade forward, and that's precisely what you need. And that's what Dan Noonan did on a regular basis. It was his muscle memory. That's why this video for me is just, I think it's an important video. And I highly recommend you, after you're done watching this video, you hop over to Nick Garrett's channel and watch this video. I'm going to link it. That stage, another very important thing is happening, and that's what I'm missing with a lot of top athletes. A lot of top athletes have a huge bend in their back somehow and somewhere, but not Dan Noonan. He was able to keep his back very stable. The roundness you see here is not a big deal because you want to bring the shoulder blades forward. The point where the bend is actually above where we transfer force. The force should be transferred through arms, through the armpit. You can see the lats engaging, and down here into the hip joint. Now this is stable. That part where we transfer force, most of the force, is stable. There is no bend. I think the bend in the upper section is required, otherwise you can't bring your shoulders forward. But a lot of rowers are weak down here. They have a bend here, therefore they try to be excessively stiff here. That's exactly the opposite. So Dan Noonan has it exactly right. So please watch this. This is something I recommend you mimic. So if you row on a by-road to my athletes and you want to watch somebody and you want to follow somebody, Dan Noonan is a good role model. Not everything is perfect because there is no perfect rower. But it's not important. There are very important aspects you can mimic and watch. And I think Dan Noonan is a coach right now, a very successful coach. And I'm pretty sure his crews are doing very well. Because once you are able to row this way, you've understood so many things. All you need to do then, when you turn from a coach into an athlete, you need to learn how to communicate that. That was my journey, for example. I had to learn how to explain that, how to explain the elephant in the stable. If my athletes know what I'm talking about. Stable trunk. At that stage, arms seem to be pretty extended. Not sure if they're overextended or not. The shoulders seem to be quite low. There's a bit of continuous forward lean. Nobody's perfect. I think that loads the hands a bit too much. So there's a bit of an inefficiency at the catch, but it's tiny. We're talking about muscle tensions here. And on a level, on a scale of 1 to 10, how good is it? It's a 9. And that's pretty good. I haven't seen a 10 yet. Oh no, I have. I think Imogen Daisy Grant, I think she's a 10 out of 10. And as we go to the catch, now is the most important thing I want to show you. Now, please monitor very precisely and very closely the shoulders. So specifically this area here, okay? You will see a tiny bit of extension as the blades find connection. He's bringing in his arms, and now he's giving in a bit with the shoulder blades. You see this? He's lengthening out the shoulders. So when you feel the resistance, you give in a bit. That is more important than I can emphasize here. For all rowers, I don't care if you're a beginner or super Olympic pro with 55 medals. A lot of rowers have the idea that at the catch, you just start the leg drive and you just start the drive and you're just going to move the boat. It's not a one-way road. What actually happens is at that stage, you place the blade. The blade will find, hopefully, connection. So, and what is more important is not the vertical placement. That is not that important. What is more important is the blade finding horizontal connection. That is important, the locking, the horizontal locking of the blade. So whenever I coach whenever I coach team boats, the most important thing to look for, no, actually also in a single, is to make sure the blade goes in, but only so much that it's covered, because it will suck itself deep enough if you're careful enough, so it's just underneath the water surface. And what you should be looking for is not the placement of the blade, but the horizontal connection with a vertically stabilized blade. This is eucoxins. That's one of the most important things to teach your boats. And this is something you can watch in the 8. So if you're a coxswainer and you watch in the 8, and you see all the blades, and you see people hammering the blades into the water, you know they have no focus on the horizontal connection point. And that's what everybody needs to focus on. And all of a sudden, the catch is about the horizontal connection, because you want to catch onto the water wall. You don't want to catch a fish and kill it. You don't want to go deep and hard. You want to be very controlled and find the point where you have resistance. Okay? And that is something that can be coached from a motorboat, or from a bike, or from a coxswain's position. Or if you're an experienced bowwoman or bowman, you can coach this as well. I don't suggest if you're in a boat you talk all the time, but when you turn, you can say, hey, I think we should focus, we should focus on horizontal connection for the next 30 strokes. And usually, just my advice is, it's very difficult to keep focus points up for more than 90 seconds. This is usually the attention span we've got. And rowing is a very automated motion, so it's very difficult to keep the focus up longer than 90 seconds, because it has to be automated, because the typical training session is, I don't know, a couple thousand strokes. So my advice is, use different focus points for no longer than 90 seconds, with a decent 2-minute break, 3-minute break in between, where you don't focus on anything specifically. That's more true for you coxswains out there. Okay, let's watch Dan Noonan a bit more. Please continue to monitor the shoulder. What he does at that stage is that he's waiting for the feedback of the water, for the resistance. And what separates him from 90% of all rowers I know is that he's patient enough to apply just enough force with his legs so that he can feel the resistance. I have to draw this here again. So his legs send in just enough force to feel the resistance. He is specifically using this as the giving link, so something that's not too rigid. And he's waiting for resistance here on his blade. So when he's finding the lock. And at that stage, as the drive unfolds, he's giving in. Let's go back a couple frames. His blades go into the water. Yes, he does a bit of an upward rotation. Shouldn't be. I know it could be more perfect, but he's a 9 out of 10. If you're a 9 out of 10, it's probably enough for a bronze medal at the Olympic Games, if your physique is on par as well and you've got a good team. And the patience that he's got is deciding, because at that stage now, because he's patient and he's not tightening up, that allows him to feel a resistance and not brutalize his body. If you don't feel a resistance at the catch and you don't wait for the horizontal connection, what happens is that you start to push. Eventually, the force that you send into the entire system, so the force that you send in this way, of course, eventually will come back because you find resistance. The question is, why does force come back? I mean, shouldn't it be transferred into boat speed? Yes, it should, but at the beginning it takes a bit of time. The connection process takes a while, and secondly, the catch is not a quick phase of the boat. It's of the entire drive cycle, or stroke cycle to be true here. The catch is where you have a pretty bad ratio initially of force input to speed output. So if you overdo it, a lot of that energy, the excess of energy that is simply too much and cannot evaporate and cannot be turned into boat speed immediately, will come back, and the weakest link will suck it up. And the weakest link usually is either here at the back, or the shoulder. And this is why Dan Noonan's technique is so exemplary here, because at that stage of the drive, he's actually anticipating that there will be energy coming back into the body, and he's deliberately using that to stretch out the shoulders a bit more. A very interesting conversation with Martin Gärtner from Germany. So Martin, if you're watching this, shoulder can be stretched out as much as you want, provided you focus on having it low. If you have it low, it's safe, it's held in place. But a lot of athletes don't have it low. So if you tell them it's okay, stretch your shoulder long, what they will do is they will pull it up and then they will overextend it, and this is going to hurt. So if you focus on keeping it low, and you mostly do this with your lats, so essentially try your lats, aim to pull the shoulder down into the trunk. If you do this, but you let it be stretched forward, that's all you need. And that letting be stretched forward happens with the resistance from the blade, which you anticipate. And now, as the drive unfolds, he has a better force transfer than 95% of all other rowers. Why? Because he's using the big muscles. Everything that is under stretch the moment force occurs is going to be the muscle that it engages when force occurs. So that might sound redundant and repetitive, but it's actually true. If, let's say, you go to the catch and you bring your shoulders up, you're going to stretch out your traps or pre-engage your traps. Now the traps will be the muscle that takes over most of the load once you find resistance. But if you stretch out your lats here, these are going to be the ones that are engaging. Now in rowing, we always want to use the biggest muscles possible. The question is, how much are we using the small ones? The small ones should aid, they shouldn't take the main bulk of the load. And this is what Dan Noonan is doing. He's bringing the blades into the water, waiting for resistance. The resistance stretches out his shoulder. Now he's holding against it. My team, that's exactly what I'm referring to. His shoulders are long and loose. He's got the lat engaged. I mean, you can see the lat. It's right there where my cursor is, right here. You can see the lat. And now his upper body swing, of course, is more effective. Why? Because the low trunk is stable and is engaging the lat. Lat goes all the way up to here. And now the upper body swing is direct effect. And just watch the bend of the oar. This comes so natural now. These two here go hand in hand. Just watch the bend of the oar. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. It's effective. You can always, Tony Connor, Tony, you had this in your notes when you said, when you're tired, you can always use body weight. For me, body weight is the essence of the rowing stroke. But I think the way you put it is so simple and makes a lot more sense because you use less words. If you're tired, you can always use body weight. The thing is, I think we should use it right from the start so we become less tired or not tired so quickly. And how to use body weight? You engage the big muscles and make sure they transfer more naturally. And you don't need to work to keep the tension alive or not as much. And when you do the rotation happens around the natural turning points of forces. And one of these natural turning points of forces is the hip joint. So, and if you watch Dan Noonan do the rotation, it's a rotation around the hip joint. There is no extra bend in the trunk. This is how it should be. Very simple. And your arm pull at the finish, you see, he's even propelling his hands with the upper body swing. This is going together. The trunk propels the hands. But it's not that we want to bring the hands closer. In fact, appears to be so much tension in his legs that even the upper body swing allows him to send more energy onto the foot stretchers. This is exactly what it should be. Here, at the finish, it ends with exactly where we started. Perfect tension in the ventral chain. Shoulder slightly forward, head slightly forward. That's all we need. Now, a short word on the blade work. See, the blades are washing out here and there because it's always going to be a washout. The blades will always wash out. The question is for how much. And I wouldn't worry too much about it. I mean, if you wash out a lot, it's nothing you can correct at the finish. It's something you can correct on recovery by keeping your knees down a bit. Don't keep your shoulders too stiff. Let your elbows loose. As you reach the edge, you can extend your arms a bit more. The only thing that Dan Noonan is not doing perfectly is that he's leaning forward with his upper body as he comes to the catch. that puts too much weight on his oar handles at the catch, and this makes it a bit slow before he finds horizontal connection. But that's nitpicking because it's so good. 90% plus of all rowers, A, will never realize it, and B, it will not slow them down. If you're that good, the rest is luxury. The rest is really luxury. Okay, that's it, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that's it. Watch Dan Noonan. Yeah. And Dan Noonan, if you see this, chapeau, I draw my hat. Extremely well done. And that's it today. If you want to work with me, my website is rmtraining.com. Maybe you want to start with joining the Saturday classes. I hold 45-minute live sessions every Saturday, actually twice, 9:30 in the morning Vienna time and 8:30 p.m. That's roughly 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. And this is where we focus on specifically things like these. So a couple of weeks ago we did how to engage the shoulders. How do you keep the shoulders low? What are exactly the steps? What do you need to feel? How do you prepare? And you can join from a boat. So you just mount an old phone, use an old backstay, use a selfie stick, use an old phone, install Zoom, have a headset, and I see your body from side and the other side blade. Works perfectly well. Or the other option is simply to use your phone, install Zoom, use a headset, in row on a bi rower, on a linear erg, and I coach you from the side as well. So every Saturday. And of course, you can always do more. You can say, okay, I want to prepare for next season. I want to have, tailor my training plan. Or I would like to have not just the Saturdays and a training plan, I would like to do a one-on-one session with RM every week or twice a week. So that's something I offer. If you want to learn more, rmtraining.com is the website. Okay, and now check out the bi rower. This is where I learned 80% of what I know. Just being able to see myself from the side, seeing the force curves in front of me, and being able to shape my stroke changed everything. And that allowed me to become more proficient in rowing in terms of understanding what leads to what. It's no more guesswork. Okay, with this being said, I'm very much looking forward to your feedback, either in the comments or on rowing.zone. That's the social rowing network and classified ads page I'm trying to create to unify rowing for everybody. I don't care if you're a coastal rower, beginner rower, fitness rower, you are 300, 400 pounds, just want to lose weight. Rowing Zone is the place where I want all rowers to meet. So it's a small website, slowly growing. We're getting new members every week. The classified ads page is free of charge. I'm doing this essentially for free for the rowing community. Help me grow it, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing you in the next video. You will see it if you subscribe and hit the notification bell, because this is when YouTube notifies you. Most of us, myself included, I have so many subscriptions because there's so many good channels on YouTube. I miss new videos. But the few ones that are very important to me, and I hope this channel is important to you, and I do my very best to make this happen, this is where I hit the notification bell. So if you could do this as well, I would appreciate that. The way the algorithm works is the more viewers I've got within the first hour or so, the higher YouTube ranks the videos. Well, the more reach I've got, the more time I can spend with these videos and help you. And now the last point of this video, if you need help and say, hey, I'm not sure if my rowing is good, or you coach somebody, or you just need a bit of input, send me the video. I happily do a review on YouTube for free. With this being said, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video. All the best. Bye-bye. Check it out.